Hey, what's up, everybody? Once again, my name is DJ, doing what I do, sitting back here, chilling. I hadn't done that one in a while. Hey, I apologize by not doing a lot of videos, but man, y'all got to be giving me something to talk about, man. So once y'all give me something more to talk about, then I can make a video about it. But this video here, man, is about something that holds dear to my heart because I do both of them. The pros and cons of training Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu at the same time, okay? Pros and cons of training Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu at the same time, all right? Cool, let's get into it. Of course, I gotta drink my water. All right, and of course, I'm gonna try to keep this video under 10 minutes, all right? Okay, so now when I talk about the pros and cons of training Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu together, I'm talking to my Krav Maga students primarily, because a lot of my Krav Maga students, asking about Jiu-Jitsu or maybe they train both, and they want to know, what the pros and cons are. Okay, so there are definitely some pros. I do both. Okay, but I didn't do both the whole time. Okay, I've been doing Krav Maga for almost 20 years. I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for, I don't know, 7, 8 years, but I do both, okay? So I do know a little bit about this subject. Pros and cons. Pros and cons, okay? Let's talk about the pros. I try to always give 3, sometimes 4, but today I'm going to stick with 3. There's 3 pros that I'm going to give you for those who are training Krav Maga and they thinking about training Jiu-Jitsu as well, okay? The first pro is training Jiu-Jitsu fills gaps, okay? What do I mean by that, okay? You learn your why, okay? Learning why you're doing certain things, especially when you're like inside and you're grappling and stuff like that, okay? Why do I have a C clamp, versus, a palm grip or a gable grip on somebody? Why do I want inside control as opposed to, outside control? Why do I want to control the head? Why do I want my knee shield in? What my why is? It sometimes for some people, it's important for them to. I'm a why guy. I want to know why. You can't just tell me to do something and I do it without knowing my why. And if Krav Maga, you know your how, you know your what, but we don't talk about the why often enough, okay? Like I said, Krav Maga is about somebody who don't have a lot of time. So like, look, just, how to do it, you know what to do it. But if those who want to know the why, you got to do a deeper dive, I give you an example, man. I just gave I just got my 3rd Dan black belt, about a month or so ago. And I was training with some dynamic people, man. There's like 4 of us, man. One of the guys, he's like a stunt man in LA. Another guy, he's like Johnny from like the Human Torch, Fireball, man. Just go get her. And my partner, man, he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I do jiu-jitsu. So at some point we were talking about, things in the system and things we should leave in and take out. And we was talking about the head and arm, triangle choke, which we generally do from the bottom. If somebody throwing punches at you, we try to get the arm out and we do the head and arm kind of from the bottom. So we was like, it's not a high percentage. And the black belt jiu-jitsu guy was like, yeah, you can do it from the bottom, but it's better to like sweep them and do it from the top. And he showed the sweep, a basic jiu-jitsu move. And the other 2 guys, they was like, oh my God, they thought they had seen like the best thing ever. They're like, oh my God, they were just like blown away from the move. But it's a basic jiu-jitsu move, okay? But if they knew like jiu-jitsu, they'd know why we do what positions are better for what, and stuff like that, but they didn't, and they're high-level jiu-jitsu guys. High-level Krav Maga guys, very good Krav Maga guys too, but they just didn't know that, they can take you out, but they didn't know that move. So that's kind of just filling gaps, okay? Another pro. So that's one pro. You fill gaps, okay, when you learn jujitsu as far as your grappling and stuff concerned, not just striking, but your grappling. Another pro is you fail often, okay? You fail often. I talk about it all the time, okay? You learn a whole lot more by failing than you do succeeding, okay? You want somebody to learn how to block a punch them in the face. After they get punched a couple of times, they're gonna learn how to get a good punch, okay? In Krav, the way Krav is trained, you win often. Okay. I mean, sometimes a lot of times your partner gives it to you, especially when certain things you can't really train for real, like elbows and all these strikes that we have. So you kind of give it to your partner. Well, so your resistance level is down. So since your partner's resistance level is not 100 or 110%, you win more. But if their resistance level is 100 or 110, you fail more, and then you kind of know. I told y'all before, if you doing jujitsu at jujitsu school and you get somebody in an armbar, you really got somebody in an armbar because they don't give it to you. You got to work 100% to get that, armbar or that choke or whatever. And with jujitsu, you can train at a high percent, not them scramblers, those young scramblers who be trying to. We ain't talking about them. I'm talking about you can train at a high, give a high level of resistance and still be safe, somewhat safe, because a lot of injuries, but somewhat safe. You can give a high level of resistance, and that means you fail often. You fail often, so when you win, you know that you win. You won, okay? So that's the second one. First, you know your why. Second, you fail often, okay? Which means you win better. Fail often, win better. That's a new one. Fail often, win better, okay? The third is the conditioning. You get in some great shape doing Krav Maga. Outstanding shape. Lose a lot of weight too. The conditioning with jujitsu is even different. Now, not gi, talking about no gi, okay? For those who are doing jujitsu, you know what I'm talking about. No gi jujitsu, you get in some shape, all right? I mean, you get in. I was just rolling with one of my black belts just yesterday, and he does jujitsu too. We was rolling. I was probably practicing on the move in some kind of way. We got into an all-out roll. Y'all know how that happened. We was rolling for about a minute and a half. I swear, I felt like my lungs was about to collapse. Okay, because hey man, look, it was like it was crazy. I mean, I was like, and we was just doing some basic stuff. When you got a body on you and you trying to get that body off you, or you trying to keep a body down, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out. It's a different kind of conditioning. Not like wrestling. Wrestling is probably the top, but right up, no gi jujitsu is very similar, especially when somebody's competitive. So the conditioning. So that's the three pros. You got your, your why. You fail often, which means you win better. And your conditioning. It's a difference. It's just a different level of conditioning. Okay. Now let's get to the cons. I know I ain't got a lot of time, but let's get to the cons because there's some cons of trying to do both. Okay. The cons of trying to do both, and I'm gonna put this in the same video because I don't feel like doing two videos, so hopefully don't go too far over 10 minutes. Okay. The cons of doing both. One of the cons, if not the number one con, is it slows your development. When you're doing two things, look, this is the truth of the matter. You can't do two things. People that are great in anything only do that one thing. Okay? The top guy in jiu-jitsu, like the number one guy in jiu-jitsu, all he do is jiu-jitsu. Matter of fact, you got no gi and you got gi. And for those who don't know, a gi is like when you wear the whole gi, a no gi is kind of what I got on right now. Okay. When you have the top players of the ones, if you are a top player in jiu-jitsu, you either top player in gi or you're a top player in no gi. You ain't the top player in both. Okay. because it's hard to do two things at the same time. Well, imagine doing two total different arts at the same time. Okay, so how you gonna be the best you can possibly be at Krav Maga and the best you can possibly be at Jiu-Jitsu? One of them gonna suffer. One of them gonna suffer. When I was doing my second Dan, I was doing Jiu-Jitsu at the time. Okay, I stopped doing Jiu-Jitsu for 6 months to prepare for my second Dan. 6 months, okay? And I had to do it twice because I ain't passed the first time. No, the first time I stopped doing jiu-jitsu for like 2 months. The second time I stopped for 6 months because I ain't passed the first time. I had to totally stop training in jiu-jitsu to get ready for my second day, because you can't do two things at once and be great at both. I just got my third Dan. This time I knew going in. I stopped training jiu-jitsu for a certain amount of time so I can get ready for my third Dan, okay? And I've always, when I used to bodybuild back in the day, I should show y'all some pictures. I used to bodybuild, but I had tried to save my money up so I can just take off work for 2 months before the bodybuilding contest so I can just concentrate on the bodybuilding. That way on stage, I knew I was and boxing. When boxers get ready for a fight, they go out, they call it camp, because they go out to the wilderness or something, and they get ready for a fight, and that's all they working on. It's they take themselves out of life for 2 months, or however they do it, so they can be the best boxer they can possibly be, okay? So it's hard to do 2, 3, 4 things at once. So you slow your development when you're trying to do that, okay? So that's definitely a big con on doing, trying to do jiu-jitsu at the same time you're doing Krav Maga. The second big con is it gets a little confusing because the principles are different, okay? Like, for example, one of our key principles in Krav Maga is we want to keep our mobility, okay? We need our mobility. We need to be on our feet. We can better deal with somebody with a weapon or a friend if we on our feet. And the principle of jiu-jitsu, they want to take you down to the ground, okay? There's also a lot of, they want to, I don't want to say we skip steps, but we want to get, like I said, the maximum amount of efficiency in the smallest amount of time, and jiu-jitsu is a little different than that. So you doing jiu-jitsu on Monday with some principles in your head, then you go to Krav Maga on Tuesdays with a whole different set of principles in your head. It's almost like bodybuilding and you training for strength and form at the same time. You can't do that. If you training for strength, you just trying to get strong. If you're trying to get cut, it's a whole nother workout, and it kind of throws you off a little bit when you're trying to do both at the same time. Which brings me to the third and final con, the mindset. The mindset I have a big problem with, especially now with jiu-jitsu being more about sport. So I have found that when I was doing, when I was doing Krav Maga, I started doing jiu-jitsu. I wanted to be a better Krav Maga instructor, and it was crazy because now that I've gotten, decent. Now, well, I still suck at jiu-jitsu, but now that I've gotten better at the jiu-jitsu, I have found that when I was teaching my ground classes at Krav, my classes weren't good. And it was bothering me, so I just taught a ground class because we on ground week. Last week I was teaching ground to some of my higher levels. I had a black belt. He does jiu-jitsu. Matter of fact, I got a black belt and a brown belt. Both of them do jiu-jitsu. So I was teaching my ground class, and then it just wasn't a good class. I didn't think it was good. So after class in the locker room, I was talking to him, and I was like, man, I just don't know why my ground classes aren't good anymore. And one of them, I can't remember which one it was, my black belt or my brown belt. He was like, man, when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I got a different mindset. I'm just thinking about jiu-jitsu. When I'm doing Krav Maga, I'm thinking about fighting, and it's different. And that was kind of an aha moment for me because I was teaching my ground Krav Maga class like I was teaching jujitsu, and it's different. This week is ground week at my school. We do different themes, and it's Thursday. No, it's Wednesday, and Monday and yesterday and Monday I taught my best ground classes that I done taught in a long time because now I'm thinking about fighting. Okay, so when I'm thinking about trapping somebody's arm, I ain't thinking about an arm bar. I'm thinking about kicking him in the head. And if I can't kick him in the head, then I'll do the arm bar. When I'm thinking about being somebody being on top of me, I ain't thinking about him being postured down. I'm thinking about him posturing up so I can kick him in the face. If I can't kick him in the face, then I'll posture him down. And my classes were way better, okay? Way better because my mindset is different. So that's a definite con to training Krav Maga and Jiu Jitsu. The mindsets are different, okay? So again, my pros are you knowing your why, okay? It helps you with your why. With Jiu-Jitsu, you fail often, which means you win better with Jiu-Jitsu, and it's a different sort of conditioning when you do both. The cons, it slows down your development, okay? The principles are different, so it gets a little confusing, and the mindset is different, all right? All right. Yeah, I know. I went over 10 minutes. I didn't feel like breaking it down for two videos. All right, so I just did it both. Okay, so it's like 17 minutes, man. Hey, y'all like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what y'all want to talk about, man, and I'll make a video on it. All right, peace. I'm out.